am exceedingly thankful to be an American. I love my country. I love everything about it. I love to be in America. I've traveled many other countries. I love Americans. I love the traditions. I love the holidays. I have in my heart a deep sense of gratitude for the men and women of our armed forces. I am just so very thankful to live in this country. And part of the reason is that my role that I play in this church would in some other countries be illegal. This would perhaps in some countries be an illegal gathering. And the words that you'll hear me speak this morning might be words that might in fact put me in jail. And the beliefs that you hold might be beliefs that you could never freely talk about in other countries. We have here in this nation such liberties, such freedoms. We take it all for granted. It is astonishing to me, frankly, that there's any space at all in any church on any given Sunday. Because the opportunity to worship in a free country, worship freely, a God that loves us and loves liberty and loves freedom and bestows this upon his people, is just it's overwhelming. And as I prepared for this message, and I've been thinking about it really for months, I've been thinking particularly about a verse from the Old Testament, the Psalms 33, verse 12. And it simply is this: blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. It was written at a time of about 1,000 years before the time of Christ, when there really was a blessing on that nation of Israel. It's a small nation, about the size of Delaware. It had huge nations, as it does now. Israel had huge nations all around it that would kick it around and take it over and trade it off and send armies up, because Israel, if you know your geography, is like a little land bridge. And if you're going to go from Egypt to Babylon, or you're going to Egypt to Syria, or any of these ancient worlds, you had to go through Israel. So it was a country that was, there were more blood shed in Israel than any other country in the world, by far. But this is written at a particular time when King David is at the top of his game. There's peace, there's prosperity. God only knows what will come, but he writes this poem for the nation. And in the middle of it, he has this one line: blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And it made me think a lot over the last couple of weeks about this. Because it made me think that, in fact, God is sovereign over all nations. That King David said, yes, this God's sovereignty extends over the country of Israel in the best of times, in the worst of times as well. And the Bible actually goes on to say something really astonishing, that God is not just a personal God that we get to keep in our pocket. God is a God of nations. He's a God of the world. And as you begin to get to know God, you begin to see his sovereignty over your whole life. But it's not just you personally, it's over the whole world that God exercised sovereignty. I make this point almost every Christmas in my Christmas Eve sermon, which I'm sure you don't remember, but I'm going to remind you of it. Right now, I'll just remind you that I say something along these lines, that Luke chapter 2 tells us when Quirinius was governor of Syria and Caesar Augustus issued a decree that the whole world should be enrolled, and all these big-shot politicians and these power brokers in Rome are essentially pulling strings, and people have to move all over the globe. They have to move to their hometown to be counted in this census that took place in the year 4 BC. And while they feel strong and powerful, actually it is God over them that is using them to effect the answer to a prophecy on the ground. Because God used that prophecy to move the Holy Family from Nazareth to Bethlehem, where it was prophesied that the child would be born. So I just ask you, who's controlling the scene? Who's got the control of the strings? No, this psalm gives us an indication that it is God who is sovereign over all nations, including ours. In fact, it goes on to say in Psalm 2 that God laughs at the nations who try to conspire against him, try and push him out, edge him out. God, in Psalm 2 it says, God laughs at them, he scorns them. I want God to speak to me, but I'm pretty sure I don't want him to laugh. I don't think it's a very good thing. So I'm thinking about this. Blessed be the nation, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And I think about it not just in terms of my own life, that I want to be blessed because I want God as my Lord, but our nation. Our president in April of this year, in front of an audience of Muslims in Turkey, said in an interview that the United States was not a Christian nation. He said it is not a Muslim nation. It's a nation that holds to a set of beliefs. This rocked the world, hit me like a brick, and I began to do a little bit more thinking about this, and I began to think about what he means by this. He actually had a clarifying comment in 2007, which went something like this, and I'm quoting, or I'm paraphrasing: whatever we were, we are no longer a Christian nation. We are a nation of Christians and Jews and Muslims and Buddhists and etc. And I would think, sadly, that he's right on this. There are many things I disagree with him about, but on this, I believe he's correct. We are no longer a Christian nation. We are a nation filled with Christians that enjoy the privilege of an event like this. We are not a Christian nation. We know this because so much has been lost over the 233 years. So much of our Christian foundation. For example, the Treaty of Paris, which was signed after the end of the Revolutionary War, which effectively constituted the United States of America, ending the war, the Revolutionary War, began with these words: "In the name of the undivided Trinity." Could you imagine a political document saying that today? The first act of Congress was to call in a minister to pray over the House and Senate and to read 4 chapters from the Bible. Could you imagine that happening today? Throughout our history, presidents have called the nation to prayer. They've called the nation to fasting. On Memorial Day, I read to you an excerpt from the prayer that Franklin Delano Roosevelt prayed over the radio at the invasion of Normandy. I just don't think those things would happen today. Sad to say. But it's not just what we lost that makes me agree with this president, but also to what we've gained, what we've layered onto this country over the last couple of decades. Just count up, if you will, the number of legal abortions over the decades. Count up the bondage, if you will. Look at the bondage of pornography on either side of the lens. The side of lens that enslaves women and tragically children sometimes in this perversion, and then on the other side, the internet screen enslaves countless numbers of men and ruins families. Look at the rate of divorce in our country. Look at the love affair that we have with the rich and the famous and the celebrities, and how even though a person as a celebrity has no real education, yet their comments have political weight that ramifies in public policy. Think of how much this country has redefined and is in the process of redefining what constitutes a marriage. No, I would have to agree with our president that we are a nation filled with Christians, absolutely. Christianity is a legal religion. It's wonderful to be here. But I would have to say we're not any longer a Christian nation.
To make a monetary gift that supports the ministries of Christ Church Plano, visit christchurchplano.org.